September 29, 1982, I performed a quite high wire crossing across Amsterdam Avenue from a 16-story building to the base quite high up of the unfinished tower, the South Tower of St. John the Divine. And when people ask me, well, how did that happen? I have to back up and say that a few years earlier, I fell in love with St. John the Divine, the largest Gothic unfinished cathedral in the world. The idea to rebuild in the 20th century an unfinished cathedral went right to my heart. The powers that be welcomed the idea of a beautiful high-wire walk to celebrate the fact that we are building again, and at the same time they had the stone from Jerusalem that the mayor of Jerusalem had offered them, and it was a perfect place to place that stone as on the top of the unfinished South Tower, as a sign that we are building again. So I thought, I directed, I designed, I rigged the walk, but theatrically I thought it would be beautiful if I will bring something to the Dean Morton and Bishop Moore waiting with a helmet, like all construction workers, on the top of the church at the base of that unfinished tower. And I look in the archive and I discover that in 1800 the cornerstone in the crypt was cemented with the help of a beautiful small trowel, half gold and half ivory handle. We found that, of course, they had it in what we call the treasure of the cathedral, and they allow me very carefully to put it on a special holder, and I carry that trowel across. And when I arrived, so I had a mission. It was not just look at the wire walker. I was helping to build, and I gave the precious trowel to Bishop Moore and Dean Morton, and they cemented the stone. I remember very well, it was quite windy. The cavaletti, the guidelines were not with the right angle. They were very steep because of not blocking the avenue and no time to install, and therefore instead of preventing the cable to move, they almost encouraged the cable to move, you know, those lines from the cable to the ground. I had two of them, and so I started, and I knew with the first step that I would be walking on an uncomfortable cable. It was a very thin cable, very sensitive to vibration, a cable which belonged to a hoist, because normally I have a hoist and the cable pulling the walk cable, and the walk cable is a larger diameter, quite rigid, but here I didn't have the time, so I thought, okay, I'm going to hook the pulling cable, I'm going to walk on it, which I have done a few times in my life, and I hate that. It's uncomfortable, bordering on dangerous. Anyway, I knew I had to be majestic and to be, and I was as in control as possible. But in the middle of the wire, when I got on one leg to do a salute to the cathedral, and people responded by, screaming and applauding. And we see on the movie, on the documentary, we see the cable is really moving like that, and it doesn't show on camera, but twisting on itself. That's a three movement. And all my life I have learned how to deal with that, but here it was really, really moving enormously. You can see it on the film. And then so I actually didn't do a program of choreography, which usually I do even on high and long walks. I basically walk across, but I did a few moments salute, and then the last step, I wanted everybody, the camera, the people on the ground, the people on the tower, I wanted everyone to really see the last step. So I did the last step in a very slow motion, and I saw one of your picture capture beautifully that moment. And then so when my feet landed on the tower and I shifted my weight and the other feet was on the tower and I had landed, then everybody understood that was the end of the event and everybody screamed. But for me it was not the end. What I did is I walked to the dean and the bishop and I gave them the precious trowel, and immediately they did their part, which was to cement the beautiful stone. And after that, I call it backstage, we hug each other, and you know, and the dean said, Philippe, I was praying. So it was a very human event because it was shared with all the stone cutters who had already started building and who were waiting for that ceremony to keep building. So they were very involved, very encouraging. They were like brothers, you know. It was a beautiful event.